Welcome to Rhyme Podcast. This month's theme is finding our healing, tribute to National Wellness Month. Healing can mean different things for different people. It can mean the ending of a toxic relationship and starting a healthy one, setting boundaries. It can also mean choosing healthier habits, getting rid of some negative ones. Um, Robert Ulrich says it this way: a healthy outside starts from the inside. Today we have a new guest, Farzin. Am I saying it wrong? Farzin. How do you say? Well, Maziani. Am I close? Am I
Yeah, you're close. It's Farzin Mazinani.
Farzin? Okay, Mazinani.
Yeah.
I thank you for so much for coming on and sharing your insight and just being part of the discussion. A lot of times national wellness is so broad, but it's also not, because we're dealing with people. I always kind of say when you're dealing with any health, I kind of focus on the person first and what they're dealing with. I work in the mental health field. I kind of feel it's that intrinsic kind of ability to connect that really sometimes help foster some of the healing. Again, thank you so much for coming on, Farzan. I want to make a uh, sorry. I
Sure.
want to make a
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here, actually.
no problem. A disclaimer. In the states, I believe you're in Canada. Is that correct? Am I
That's
wrong?
correct. Yes.
Okay. But in the states, we have 988 as a crisis lifeline. If you are in crisis, I encourage you to reach out. But if you are in crisis wherever you are in the world, I encourage you to find what is it in Canada? Do you know what it is?
It's
If you are
911.
911, okay. I encourage you to call that if you're in Canada, and wherever you are, whatever groups you're in, whether you're in a church setting, a mosque. I do encourage you to find someone to tell them if you are needing help. Another thing I want to add as addition this month is I want to encourage listeners who are watching, if you are feeling unwell, just physically, and it's been for a while, I encourage you to find a way to find a professional to assist you. That means like whether going to a free clinic, seeing a primary care doctor that you have been avoiding. I encourage you to please get help. There's a lot, unfortunately, stigma when it comes to not only mental health conditions, but also medical, like especially things like diabetes. If you are struggling with diabetes, avoiding it doesn't help. Finding help, getting screened may be a, an important step to your health. With that being said, Farzan, I know people say it better than I do. AJ Reb Materi, I'm messing up his name, but AJ says that so many people spend their health gaining wealth and then having to spend their wealth to regain their. So what comes to mind when you hear this quote, and anything you want to add or share as we begin this discussion?
Yeah, that's actually a very nice subject because sometimes we sacrifice our health
Mm-hmm.
when we are in the path of success.
Mm-hmm.
So it usually goes like that. I want to come out of my shell. I want to come out of my safe zone
Mm-hmm.
or comfort zone
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want to be doing just a routine thing that everybody does.
Mm-hmm.
So I have those aspirations to just move forward and do better than normal. So what I have in hand is, so everybody is talking about that you have to go out of your shell, you have to never look back, you have to
Mm-hmm.
go move forward, you have to go through those barriers and break those barriers, and you have to fight, you have to be a fighter. So it puts us in a fight or flight mode. We
Yeah.
are going to be on our toes all the time
Yeah.
because expecting those barriers to come from any place, from any person.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to go through them. And when we do that, we might be able to get to our target, whatever it is that
Mm-hmm.
we define as success. But what happens is that we are a wounded warrior. It means that we just had a good fight,
Mm-hmm.
we are successful, but we are wounded, and
Yeah.
it costs our health. Why? Because imagine that you want to build a business. There are
Mm-hmm.
a lot of stress and anxiety and so on during the process of building the business.
Mm-hmm.
So, and other things as well. For example, your relationships. We
Mm-hmm.
not spend enough time for the loved ones that we have around us, so all those relationships can suffer. And
Mm-hmm.
the other thing is our happiness. We might be on top and
Mm-hmm.
have everything we want in our business or life, success wise, but we might
Mm-hmm.
not be happy. So, mental health, emotional health, and physical health might be the price for that success.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what this quote is talking about, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also defining what success is. We kind of generalize in the sense, you know, success has a dollar amount, or success has some sort of title, or some sort of prestige, whatever that may be. Unfortunately, at least for me, I can speak for myself in this. I do my best work when I slow down. Sometimes, a lot of times we're running on empty. I know for me, I have to, working in the mental health field, I have to find ways to cathartically decompress afterwards. But that doesn't mean, even though I find maybe some tools or some coping skills, that doesn't mean that that replaces rest. So I
Mhm.
can't just tinker, enjoy what I do, and find some de-escalating, or ways to compensate through the highly stressful environment sometimes I'm in my work, which I do love. It's just more that I have to define what those are. Rests are a different thing. Rest is like a rest of mind. Maybe I may read a book. I may do some video editing. I may do whatever. But those are good, but it doesn't replace rest in itself,
Mhm.
sleeping itself. So I try to remind myself, it's not that I'm
Mhm.
great at this, but I remind myself that they are not one of the two of the same thing, if that makes sense.
Yes, exactly. So you are talking about the definition of success. As we know, success means different to every person that we talk to. But
Hmm.
when I ask people about the definition of success, what does that mean to them? Most people say that reaching their goal means that being successful.
Hmm.
And I always challenge them. I say, how many times do you think you reach your goals during your life?
Hmm.
Those check marks are very few, and
Hmm.
if we are just defining our success based on your check marks, it means that we are not successful most of our life. We are miserable most of our life. But
Hmm.
what if we change the definition?
Hmm.
Because I believe, change your definition, change your life.
Hmm.
That is the motto that I have. So we're gonna change the definition. So if we say that success means moving towards a worthy goal with
Hmm.
joy and ease, that way you can be successful most of your life, not
Hmm.
just those few moments.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
might not be momentary. It can be something that you feel about yourself, that you are moving towards an important goal, and that
Hmm.
is the meaning of success. You consider yourself successful as well as you're moving towards the goal that you have in mind.
Yeah.
So with those small change of definition,
Hmm.
it changes your perspective, it changes your feeling about yourself.
Yeah, and there's this one quote. It's unknown. It says, "In order to change, we must be sick and tired of being, uh, and tired of being sick and tired." And it's kind of a coin. I've heard this before, but what I really wanted to stress on is, a lot of times I deal with individuals who may be really at the lowest bit, and what I realize is not just when we're just aiming for goals for, I guess, to be successful, but aiming goals to get out of the ditch we're in, or whatever we're in. Sometimes I do encourage, a lot of times it's hard to see, especially when you're looking at that perspective, getting out of a ditch versus getting towards success, is finding a way to embrace the process. It's a consistency that matters. If I were to tell someone who has substance use issues that they want to be a goal where the sobriety be on, be clear of these drugs, but the problem is is usually negatively reinforced. Is reinforced by I don't want to get in trouble, I don't want to lose my kids, I don't want all this stuff to happen. However, when it becomes positive reinforced, like, I want to do something better. I want to be there for my daughter's graduation, wedding, whatever that may be. Again, and then more insight and more growth. So I don't know, at least for me, I'm just sharing from my perspective. I kind of accepted the fact that our lives are always kind of unfinished in a weird way. It's weird to say that. It's kind of sounds a little poetic, but I try to emphasize the micro things that I do each day, at least. Getting up, making that choice to get up, making the choice to do whatever I'm doing better than I did yesterday and the best I can. And I feel those little steps, at least for me, has been monumental in this process, because whether you're making the steps towards a success per se, a goal, or you're aiming your goal to something to get out of something you've got yourself into, I feel when we're embracing the process on either side, I find it becomes more successful just because you're more involved in it. You're not just waiting for something to happen. You're actually in it, if that makes sense. Anything you want to say or add or
Yeah, being tired of being sick and tired is a good metaphor for something that in my book I call it. We have two type of energies.
Mm-hmm.
One is activation energy, and the other one is motivation energy.
Mm-hmm.
And activation energy is what we need to have in order to move, to start moving.
Mm-hmm.
Based on the law, the first law of Newton is talking about inertia.
Mm-hmm.
That when a subject is moving, it tends to be moving. When the subject is staying somewhere, it tends to be staying somewhere, unless there is an external force that's causing to change from moving to staying or reverse. But the thing is that activation energy is much more than what we sometimes expect. For example, for a chemical reaction, the two materials are side by side. They need an activation energy to start to combine, and when the combination or the mixture is going on, it's using a less energy than the first when it wants to start the mixture. So the same thing goes for whatever we want to do. And they say that a shuttle, when it wants to go to the space, it consumes most of its fuel. When it comes out of when it's on the ground and wants to get out of the space, the air, I mean the ground.
It's like exit velocity. It's that exit velocity. That whole, it takes so much fuel to get out of the orbit, like out of the atmosphere to space.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't realize that it takes so much to push it out there.
And then when it's in the space, it just moves smooth and everything is fine. But the first inertia to just start doing something is very important. So we have to have that motive. We have to have a big why to start the things. That is important.
A sort of catalyst that prompts us to do this, like whatever that may be. And it starts there, but it changes. We have seasons in life. So you don't, like, you may start initially, but just to get the momentum towards your goal or success or getting yourself out of that situation. But at the same time, it's also recognizing that process and season of life may change. I like what Albert Einstein, I say this, I'm paraphrasing, but he says the true intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. In that sense. He didn't say it in that manner, but I do find it's very true. We things can go well. Let's say if I want to be a basketball NBA player. Let's say I was in high school, I was very promising. The problem about this scenario, I use it a lot. I hope people listening are not annoyed with it, but is that life happens between then and there. you know, I go to college. I may be playing for whatever team. And it's about getting the right contracts, getting to the right team to maybe propel yourself to be around the right people to maybe get a chance to get to have a decent team, to have a shot to go to the NBA championship, and maybe possibly. But then what happens? Your family happens. Maybe someone unfortunately dies in your family and causes a little bit this, and the person's still straining to this, not adjusting or adapting to the change, not being kind or respectful or taking care of a rest or health. And unfortunately, that dream may become harder to get to. And then that frustration and the love that person had for that sport becomes not a love, becomes a hate. And the person avoids anything revolving that. This is a thought exercise, but I do find it very much something that I try to find ways, whatever, even if it's difficult, especially if it's difficult, to find ways to enjoy or accept the process when it comes to it, especially if it's important to me. Does that make sense?
Yes, exactly. So the reason that we don't feel the joy in the process is that we are doing it by force. It's a forceful success. It is sometimes, I call it painful success. So we go through those pains in order to achieve something, because we are told that is the way, but maybe there is another way.
Yeah.
The thing that I always talk about is something that I call effortless success, something that I call heartful success. And it's a little bit different. So the reason for that resistance is actually our own mind, our subconscious mind, actually. So whatever programming that we had that has created our life to this point is something that is tending to just move us along the same route. It's like a train. The train is very strong, and we are in the train. And we decide, so the train is going south. Imagine that you are in a train and the train is going south. And then you decide in a moment that, no, I want to move north. So you're still in the train, and you start moving north inside the train. So where do you end up? Of course, you're going to end up south, because the train is going south. So that train is a million times stronger. It's, as a subconscious mind, is a million times stronger than our conscious decisions. So what is it including that subconscious mind? The images, for example, the self-image that you have about yourself determines how you're going to be doing in life. There are people who are handed a batch of money, for example, people who win the lottery, and then a lot of them, based on research, a lot of them lose their money after a couple of years. The reason is that wealth is not matched with their self-image. So they do stupid things, and they take themselves back to the square one. And the reason is that's the self-sabotage, because they want that image that they had before. They're more comfortable with that image that they had before, So that is one thing. The other one is the habits that we have, the beliefs that we have, the emotions that we have, the routines that we have, the automatic reactions they are all in our subconscious mind. So if we start to change things based on our conscious decision, what happens is that we want to do something that is opposing all those forces. And it is not an easy process. But what if there is a way that we can bring the subconscious along with us in the direction that we want to go? If that be possible, then we're going to have a smooth ride, and we're going to have joy in the way. We're going to have fun in the way. And, we've all heard about having the smooth ride or having the joy or enjoying the journey. Some people talk about enjoying the journey, not
Mm-hmm.
just enjoying reaching the destination. We have to be able to enjoy the journey. But if we are fighting all the time with our subconscious mind, we're not going to be enjoying the journey. But
Mm-hmm.
if we be able to bring the subconscious on board, what happens is that there's going to be a fun process.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is there a way to do it? Do you want to do you want me to answer that question?
Yeah, and I think there's going to be a portion where when I ask you to share a little bit about your story, what brought you here, maybe we'll touch upon it. Then I just have a few questions before we get there, and it may actually you could probably hint on it now. I want to hold that till you bring up your story, what brought you to do what you do in Canada. But what has I guess what has helped you or those around you, just kind of getting snippets towards that, take steps towards, maybe this is kind of what you're suggesting. You can start, how about this, you tell us what you're about to share, and then we'll go into a little bit about your story. We'll go back, we'll do that transition. So answer this the way you would answer it in regards to not resisting, having that easy success, in the sense that you're not going against the current, you're going with the current. What steps have you seen? Now, obviously, the question is not saying that, but we're leading towards that. What steps has helped promote this? What steps have you seen work for you, and what steps have you seen work for others regarding that?
So yeah, in order to answer that question, let me go through a three experiences that I had in different stages of life. So those are epiphanies. Epiphanies, when you realize something that it changes your view, it changes your direction that you have in life. It's like those breakthrough moments. So the first one was, I just go briefly because I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. So the first one was at age 24. So I started my search at age 12, and I wanted to find the real meaning of joy and happiness. I had everything I wanted at the time, but I wasn't happy. So I wanted to find the real meaning of joy. So I went through books. Why books? Because at that time, they didn't have internet. They didn't have all those research that people can have easily, find the videos on YouTube and those kind of things. There were nothing at the time. So I had just books. And through those books, I was introduced to different paths. And I would go and change paths all the time. During the period of 12 years, I went through many paths to find the joy. And after 12 years, I was 24 years old. I had thousands of books in my personal library, but still I wasn't satisfied, you know. I was looking for the ultimate joy, and I couldn't get it from the outside. So I made a radical decision. I said that I'm going to go to a windowless room and close the door and turn the light off. I'm going to sit there until I get that element that I'm looking for, the ultimate joy. So I did that. And it took me about 5 days. I came out and found that it was taking 5 days, because when you're inside, it's all dark. You don't know it is day or night or something like that. So I went through different experiences during that time that I was in there. And in one of those experiences, I felt that my cells are burning from inside, and I was feeling that heat and sweating badly. And all of a sudden, I just saw the light, different colors of light, and I just heard the music. And that was coming from inside, not outside. Outside was silence and darkness, but inside it was something else. So I found that joy that was inside me. Actually, it wasn't outside. So Before that, I was looking for that outside. So it was just like the story of that farmer in Africa who was looking for diamond, and he sold his farm to go around the world and find diamond. He died when he was away, and the farmer who bought the farm was digging for farming and found a piece of stone, polished it, and it was apparently the largest mine, actually diamond mine in Africa. So he was sitting on it, but he didn't know, the first farmer. So he didn't know. He was looking for it outside. It's called the Acres of Diamond, that story. So it was like me. I was looking for it on the outside, but it was actually inside. So it changed my view in that moment when I experienced that. And then I went through some ups and downs of life. I injured my back when I immigrated to Canada about 20 something years ago. I injured my back at work, and I was carrying that chronic pain for 15 years. It was back and forth. Almost every week I had to go to therapy to release the frozen back that I had, and nobody could find the reason for whatever I was experiencing. And a friend of mine came and said that maybe I can help you. And she released the emotional charges that I was carrying. It is called trapped emotions. And when she did that, the pain was gone forever, the pain that I was carrying. And it was an eye-opening process for me. It changed the direction of my life, because she said that you have the talent to do the same thing for other people as well. So I started practicing it. I started to go through the certifications and start helping others with that. And then she did something else too. She removed my heart wall. What is heart wall? When you are in a situation that you're vulnerable, maybe it might be a relationship or anything else, that you feel that you are not safe, you feel that you're insecure. You want to protect your heart from damage. So you use those energies that is within your body and create a chamber around your heart. It is called heart wall. And more than 93% of people, based on the research that Dr. Bradley Nelson has done, more than 93% of people have that heart wall. And having that heart wall means that we are in a self-made prison, because we cannot communicate with ourselves, and we cannot communicate with others properly, because we have that shell. It is like a bomb shelter that we are on at the time of war, but now it has been few years after the war is over, but we are still living in that bomb shelter. Feeling is like that. And then when she released the heart wall, things started to change in my life. And then the third epiphany that I had, the breakthrough, was when I broke my shoulder. When I went skiing, I fell down and I broke my shoulder and fractured the big bone that we have in our shoulder. And the surgeon said that I only have seen this kind of fracture in car accidents. How did you manage to break it? And I was, at the time, I had developed that kind of perspective in life, that life is my friend. Sometimes I receive a gift that is wrapped in ugly paper, but there is some valuable thing inside, even if I can't see it at the moment. So I knew that something is given me by life. So that is valuable. So what happened was, I said that I cannot do anything with my left arm. It's used. I cannot even move it, and I'm taking a lot of painkillers, but I can still do things with my right arm. So what can I do? I can use my right hand to write. The book that was overdue for a long time. Now I have the time. So I went to the basement and started writing. Something magical happened. I noticed that I'm writing and writing and writing. I don't need to take those strong painkillers that I was taking. And I was forgetting about time and space and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
that was the definition of flow, because I knew about being in a flow state, being in a zone. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have direct experience with that. That
Mm-hmm.
opportunity came and I had that experience. So a couple of weeks after, I sent the manuscripts to the publisher and they said, there's too much. We cannot publish that. You have to cut it. You have to cut it. Almost I cut it in half to be able to publish my book, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But that was quite an experience that I had.
Mm-hmm.
So those kind of moments uh, gave me some new perspective in life
Mm-hmm.
towards success. If we be able to bring along our subconscious mind, that helps us to enjoy the ride.
Yeah, and it was. I appreciate you sharing each part of that. I think about when you have those existential crises, when you're asking yourself, why is this happening to me? Sometimes we think so dualistically. We're thinking, oh, it's either gonna go all wrong or all right. But we never really take the time on self. I do appreciate you sharing that, because I feel we try to find answers everywhere else, like the diamond. He was looking for diamonds, and it's kind of poetic. A lot of times during you see all those Instagram pictures of people in wonderful beaches, wherever they're at, and if you're not feeling well, it's interesting. Like, oh, I'll feel well if I go to this, but you bring yourself with you. That's the problem. You're already not feeling well. Um, I do appreciate that there is that 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 resistance, that enoughness that we need to just, and I've seen time and time again that it hasn't worked. And not what you're describing, but when we push against. So let's say a person says to me in the office, they tried this and that, and they're frustrated, understandably. And but then the idea is they don't give themselves any space to kind of get to the point of understanding self, of what they're going through, why this bothers them, or even having a moment of clarity of what is really important for them. And unfortunately, when they don't do that, if you want things to get better, you want things to change, but you don't want things to change, kind of gets to this little cycle. Because the fact of the matter is, I get to the point sometimes, even with myself, this is just a very human thing for us to do. Kind of, I like how you mentioned the heart wall that you mentioned. I would say for me, the closest thing when I was in New York, I had some acupuncture done. I've experienced trauma in the past, and the acupuncture was very helpful because there's a lot of points that were, things get stuck. At least I can say that personally. Like, emotions get stuck wherever they're at. And I don't understand the whole science of it all, but I know it. At least for me, I relieved tension, years of tension that I was going through. But again, it's still just a process, and I encourage, at least as we talk about wellness, as we talk about the whole self. Like, I always have a problem when they kind of separate it, physical, mental. The problem is, like, and you could give me a list of things to eat. And I probably could make something. Even if I went all vegan or vegetarian. Okay. The problem is, what if I don't like who I am? Let's go down that route. What if I don't like when I look at myself in the mirror? A lot of people like think about trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder we had last month, and it's the silent pain. We call it. I think I remember the silent pain, and a lot of times, unfortunately, when you think about it's when you think about trauma and what it kind of brings up, because you mentioned, it gets you stuck where you don't feel there's any real other options on the table, and unfortunately there's kind of a moral injury that happens. So if you're over there and let's say you're some countries, I know, I'm half South Korean, so if you're in Korea, you have to serve. Other countries, the same thing. If you finish The United States not the same. We had the draft, but let's say you go there, and I always kind of, and then you kill someone. Well, you're in wartime, and it was a horrible situation. I know, family members, friends. I was in the military, but I wasn't in combat. But they come back, and there's a moral injury because they don't process what they've been through, and they're stuck there. So it's not characteristic of who they are, and then look at themselves and they like who they are. So if we're going to talk about health, we're going to talk about the whole self, not just what our physical, what our blood pressure is, and it's important. Those things are important, but it's the barriers become less when the person's self is in equilibrium to what they want, what they like to have, what success looks like, as opposed to I need to get better. I need to be healthier as a condition outside of self. And to not to be long-winded, the last thing I want to say about that is working with people with mental health is if they're not part of the process or part of the solution or part of the, as we draw up a plan to help them, I'll say most times 99.999 doesn't work. They have to be part of it. They have to have a part of the say. And I would say when it comes to being kind or being supportive doesn't mean you don't argue. I feel a lot of times being heard is also having people talk to you like a human being. So if I don't agree with you and you have suffered from mental illness, I'm not be like, I'm just going to agree with you just because it's easier. Sometimes the best thing you do is argue back and forth because they feel like now you're treating them like a person. People debate things. People have things that, and they feel more part of the process when it comes to what's next and what may be helpful. I know that was long-winded, but I do appreciate your story. It's a wonderful. It's very poetic, kind of how you tie that all together. I want to give you also more opportunity to share more, if that's okay with you. You mentioned that those steps. Is there anything else that you want to share that when it comes to what brought you to do what you're doing? You mentioned, I remember reading your profile, you do coaching, you've done a lot of different elements to help. My question simply is why? Why do you do these things? Why do you have a passion for this? I know you mentioned your story briefly in those three not momentous occasions, but what drives you today, and anything you want to share? We'll put your anything in the notes for those who are watching if they want to check out more about you. So the floor is yours.
Sure. So the motive for me to do whatever I'm doing is a formula that I have is joy plus impact equals, what do you think it equals?
Joy plus impact equals healing?
Fulfillment.
Fulfillment. Okay.
Fulfillment. You are fulfilled when you are in the state of joy, and then you feel that you are doing that everybody else is getting benefit from whatever that you're doing. You're not just wasting your time or something like that. So fulfillment comes with joy and impact. And that is what I found, that those kind of avenues that I have at hand, the experiences that I have, the things that I can do for people can have a lasting effect on them. Then the fulfillment comes after. So that is my personal why, the motive that make me to go and do things that might be odd to a lot of people. They might say that, why? Because I'm coming from an engineering background. During those moments that I described in the stories, it shifts the direction of my life. I'm a different person now because I view life as my friend, not just a hostile universe. I see it as a friendly universe, and we are all together to help each other, to enhance each other, We are
Mm.
not separate, we are just part of the whole. So that is how I see life, to give me the opportunity to just provide that kind of things for others, you know.
Yeah, and a much simpler version I would say for myself is, when I was healing from what I was healing, helping people became my healing. Serving others became my recovery. I know those are kind of like, but for me, I just feel there's something about passing on what you learn to help others that I feel is very, I would say, fulfilling, as you would say. It's very much I don't feel there's something about community that gets lost. I remember reading books about the Industrial Revolution and all that, and how everyone ran into the cities, but we're so close to each other, but we're not connected. We're not communicating. We have a bunch of people in one spot, a city. Now we have those mega cities or whatever they call it, and it's you're around a lot of people, but you don't really feel connected. You can be around thousands of people and feel like you're the only person there. You can be the loneliest person with millions of people around you. So there's something to that. The loneliness effect is really, I feel, more and more apparent working in the field I do. But I also, I do feel that, there's something that's healing is when I'm able to help someone, at least whatever it is. Sometimes I feel helping is not always an action thing. I find it's just a presence thing, just being there. A lot of times I don't have the answers, and I just feel the human element gets lost. We're always so obsessed with progress. A lot of times when I'm dealing with clients, it's like, we're talking about coping, and they're like breathing techniques, progressive relaxation, all this stuff. I'm like, what do you like to do? Like, what do you like to do? Because a lot of times there's a lot of gaps of filling the space. The one of the things that gets lost is the creativity. I think creativity gets kind of squandered in society like this. Well, what's the use of creativity when we have productivity? Well, a lot of our problems are best answered creatively. Creatively, especially as unique as we are. So you got the dusty guitar just sitting there. I do encourage people to find cathartic ways, but like you're saying, I also, for me, it's the community aspect that really I feel heals a community. We're talking about National Wellness Month. It's not just for one individual; it's for each one of us. And I think the African proverb saying, "If you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together." That kind of idea that we, as a community, is how we treat each other. It could go from the basic thing as a waiter getting my my what I requested as a meal wrong. And I could be like two things first, and I could be like, "How dare you?" I've been through so much, or I could be of a kind spirit. I could be, you know what? I don't know this individual. It's wrong. I could still voice that, hey, this is not what I ordered, but still be kind about it. I find today's society don't communicate, and we're talking about health and communication. I feel is a big part of it. We don't communicate well. People feel left out. People feel like they're a burden. There's a big thing about being a burden, being belonging. Like having a lot of people used to call you, but now you have an illness or you have something, some situation, maybe a divorce or something, and then all of a sudden you have no one to talk to. That shift of change can be devastating for an individual, especially someone who used to feel that they had, or let's just say for the most basic intrinsic truth about us as humans is that we are prone to death. So there's also that element of grief that is also there. So processing that. But I do feel, at least for me, and I think we're kind of kindred spirits in the sense that I find much of my fulfillment by helping others. I don't feel like I lose anything. I feel I gain more just by helping, being present, doing what I can. Having boundaries, of course, learning healthy habits along the way, knowing and being kind, not taking myself so seriously, slowing down when I can. These are a lot of things that has helped me, and I will pass it on to you. Anything else you want to add or comment?
Sure. So I was talking about the process
Mm,
and what can we do for bringing the subconscious along with
mm,
us when we want to do something new,
mm-hmm,
whatever it is. You have a goal or you want to achieve something. Sometimes it comes with the resistance, because as soon as you start changing something, the fear of change comes, and the fear of success even comes. So we have that kind of things as fear of success,
mm-hmm,
because our subconscious mind says that you are safe right now. Just sit down and don't move. You don't need to move anywhere. If you move, I don't know what's going to be happening to you. So I'm going to try my best to keep you wherever you are. So that's what that usually happens. But uh, the thing is that we know consciously that we have to just do something to make our life better, whatever it is, what aspect of life that we want to improve. And sometimes there's repetitive patterns for us that we have to pay attention. Something is repeating itself. It
mm-hmm,
might be our relationship problems, it might be our health, or the income that we have, or we have to do something about some things that are repeating themselves. Those are the messages. So
mm-hmm.
we want to improve, but resistance comes, so we
Yeah.
give up. And we know that in order to achieve something, you have to be consistent, as you
Mm-hmm,
said. It's like driving. If I don't pay attention to the road for a couple of minutes and don't adjust the steering wheel based on the road that is changing, I'm gonna end up in an accident or in a ditch.
yeah.
Just a couple of seconds. So I have to adjust all the time and focus on the road. So the same thing happens for us when we want to go to a place in our life. We have to have that continuous movement and adjustments. So how can we do that? Normally, when we go to sleep, what happens is that before we go to sleep, we have all those anxieties, fears, and worries, and blaming ourselves, and those kind of things. And we impose all those to our subconscious mind, because before we go to sleep, our subconscious mind is wide open. We are in the alpha state, and
Mm-hmm,
it's wide open. We just impose all those into our subconscious mind, and we wake up in the morning tired out. We had our rest, but we are tired. That's why. So we're gonna reverse that process. So what we're gonna be doing in here is a simple 3-step process. I have it in my book as a 10-step process, but I'm gonna summarize it in 3 steps because it's easier to remember. The first step is, when we have a goal or target or whatever we want to achieve in life, the changes that we want to do, we want to break it into smaller chunks.
mm-hmm.
The building doesn't appear by itself. We have to just go layer by layer and build it. So the smaller chunks, needle moving actions, we find those. But the problem is that when it comes to the task that we have to do or the actions, the resistance comes. Our subconscious mind is not allowing us to go through those tasks. We know that they are good. We know that it is getting us to wherever we want to go, but our subconscious mind is resisting. So we're going to change the name to games, because it is like you have a problem, you change the name to challenge. Problem means that we are focusing on the negative side, but challenge means that we are focusing on the positive side. So we change the name from the task to the game. So we have those little games to play. So the first step is, before you go to sleep, you do that process that I call game plan. You decide a couple of those games that I want to play for tomorrow, and you sleep on it. Before you go to sleep, you're thinking about the games that you want to play, those tasks that are named as games, and then you go to sleep. In the morning, the second part is, I call it, the second part it's a type of mental rehearsal, but I call it warm up. So for every game, we have to warm up ourselves first.
Mm-hmm.
Body should be ready. So what we do is, as we are laying down, we review those kind of plays that we want to, games that we want to play in our head.
Mm-hmm.
And we enjoy the time in our head, that what we are doing, we imagine that we have achieved, we are on top of the podium, and we are celebrating our success. We just have that moment before we even open our eyes. It's important, because that is the moment that, again, our subconscious mind is wide open.
Mm-hmm.
We can program it. So we programmed it into our subconscious mind 2 times. So now the third part comes, which is playing during the day. We just do the play during the day. And it is not hard anymore, because our subconscious mind is programmed to be with us in that game. So it's easy. And we do it every day, every night, and we see the results. All of a sudden, we see ourselves at our target. It's like driving. You just adjust the steering wheel, and all of a sudden, you are there at your destination. So it's a 3-step process.
I like how you mentioned a challenge, versus a problem, because of negative connotation to a problem. And, I've read, studies, and also, I don't know if you remember the 2, I guess, are mountain climbers in Peru. They got stuck. One of them, it was in the early 2000s, and they had to pulley themselves down the mountain. It was like 2,000 feet, and it was interesting. They kind of went through, I guess, they treated it like a game. They treated the whole thing, and they survived. Really, because it was, a lot of times, especially those unique scenarios where everything's defying them surviving, when the mind has no barriers and you're just looking at the problem itself and you try to figure out each one problem to the next problem, I've read that it's been very, very successful, in the sense that people have been able to make significant progress, because their self is not in the way. They're kind of just riding this, and it's not that it was easy. This is not, but it'll be a lot harder if the person is thinking about their whole life. A lot of times people don't survive that way. They have, and a lot of accounts when it comes to unique people situations with a person stuck in a building that's fire, the whole building's on fire. If they're thinking about their whole life and what's going to happen if they lost, it's the people who, what I read is that people who just look at what they can do now, what step now, the problem solve, they find, not to say always, you can't say always statistically impossible, but they have a higher rate of success to find a solution out of that problem or challenge per se.
Yeah, so, when we focus on the solution, we find the solution. When we focus on the problem, the problem gets stronger. It's like a magnifying glass. Our attention is like a magnifying glass. It enhances whatever we are focusing on. So it is important to have a right direction on whatever we are pointing on. And sometimes those kind of problems, the blockages that we have, it reflects in different aspects of our life. For example, sometimes it's in our health, sometimes it's relationship, our wealth, or our happiness. So I usually define those as the 4 tires of a car. So if one tire is flat, we're not going to move much. We have to fix it. So if it's flat, you have to deal with it. So we have to find those. That's why I created a quiz for people. I call it the life quality assessment, self-assessment. So it covers all those 4 aspects, and they go and answer those 20 questions, and it gives them a score, life quality score. What is your life quality score? We want to find out, and it's in that quiz. It's a free quiz. People can go and find more about themselves, that which area of life they need to put more attention on and pay attention to. because that is the flat tire that we have, that we need to fix it in order to move along in life. Those are the effects, not are the causes, because cause is either physical, emotional, mental, or something. They're all connected together. As you said, it's a holistic process to find those causes. We don't want to just block the pain that we have with a painkiller, for example, because that pain might be an indicator for something that is going on. It might be physical, or it might be emotional. The pain that I was carrying for 15 years had an emotional source. So it is called trapped emotions. Sometimes we process those emotions, sometimes we don't, and it gets stuck in our body. Everybody on average is carrying more than 200 of those trapped emotions. And it gets us slow, it affects our organs and everything. And we have some limiting beliefs as well. So those are affecting the whole thing as well. So with those indicators, we can find the source of those problems that we have, and then which is all in our the source to be able to get access to those is actually our subconscious mind as well. So subconscious mind, some people think it is their enemy, but no, it has a good side and it has the other side that we have to be careful of. So all the information is in there. So it's like a database. We can find, if you have the code for that database, we can go there and search and find those root causes, and then do the healing through that. So that is the true meaning of healing. Just not one aspect. It's holistic healing that we're talking about.
And there's this one quote. It's unknown, but I think it's kind of what speaks of what we're saying. If you want something you never had, you must be willing to do something you never done. So it's kind of funny how he says it that way. But a lot of these, I always tell people, even when they come to my office or whatever, get a second opinion, get a third opinion. Don't set off that this is with the same repetitive, like you say, those indicators. If things are repeating, relationship, health wise, that's an indication that something needs to change. Something, especially if you want to move forward. But I just want to say it's been a privilege to have you here, Farzin.
Thank you.
And I just want to ask you to any final thoughts as we wrap up. And I always kind of say, well, I always say this to my guests, whether on the show or on the episode or not. But I always like to have returning guests, so don't be surprised if I reach out to you again. Do you have a website or anything like that?
Yes, I have a website which is joyfulfix.com.
I'll put that in. Those who are listening, watching, the link will be in the notes, so you can just click on it, check out more about what Farzin's been doing, and anything else. All the resources and everything else there will be. I'll encourage you to check it out. That's what I'm saying.
Sure, yeah. So on the contact page of the website, people can record their voice in there. So if there is something that they want to talk about, I receive that as a private and secure message from them, and then we can arrange for a free consultation. I give them the roadmap in that consultation. So wherever they are in life, wherever they want to be, and the barriers that they have along the way. So I give them the roadmap. They can go through that path themselves, or I can help them to go through that more smoothly, but by removing those blockages that are in the way. And they have the access to that quiz as well on the contact page of the website. They have access to that quiz. They can take that quiz and get the number for themselves. What is your life quality score? It shows them. And then we can go from there.
Thank you so much. Just coming on and sharing your insight. I felt like we could keep talking, but I'm like, it's like your book, they had to cut it in half. But thank you again for coming on. I want to share with those who are listening. Remember, stay updated with all things Revive Ministries through the various platforms. ReviveMinistriesFL.com is our website. leaving you with the last quote is from John Green. John Green, it says, "There is hope even when your brain tells you there isn't." Don't get stuck in what you feel hasn't worked. There might be a third option out there. Thank you so much for coming on, Farzin.
Exactly. So that is my message. The final message is there is light at the end of the tunnel. Even if you don't see it, I can just show it to you. Sometimes we are in the stage that we feel helpless, but there's always something that can help us to move along.
Thank you so much.